So you see an MRI sheet. Okay, now you picture R2-D2, he projects Princess Leia, but if you turn around to the side, you'll see it's a thin sheet, like a sheet of paper. It only looks three-dimensional from when you're looking at the front or the back, but if you go to the side, it turns into a sheet of paper. This is like the MRI, the strings. You're like a string on the sheet of paper. It only looks three-dimensional from the top or the bottom, but from the side view of this place, it's like a TV, a flat sheet of paper. So, I know that sounds crazy, but it's the electromagnetic spectrum and MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, okay, your avatar. Every thought you have collapses the wave function and brings something into reality. You want a sandwich? You'll collapse the wave function and go get yourself some bread and mayo, whatever, and you will make that happen.
You see, patterns are found everywhere. They're all throughout nature. In fact, you could say that they're actually the building blocks of everything you know to be real. They're in your dog, they're in your house plants, they're in your house. They make up your body. They make up everything you know to be real in your life. Since everything can be reduced down to an atom itself is a geometrical structure, and that structure itself works with other structures or against them to create these objects that we see in front of us. The table, the computer, your chicken dinner, everything can be reduced down to a geometric structure. And at this level, it's all about if that structure works together with another to create a unit, or if it moves apart to create something new. This is essentially a very basic way of experiencing separation or understanding separation.
Okay, harmonics and alchemy. All is from one. These are some notes I took. Alchemy is the exploration of the involution of the absolute into matter, and evolution is matter back to the all, the source, the Ouroboros. So it's an exploration of the involution of the absolute. So it's the absolute, let's just call it this right here, involuting. It's coming down, all right, into matter. This is coming down into matter. And it's also going the opposite way. And matter is evolving back to the all, Ouroboros, the source. And it's a constant wheel.
A different perspective, as I've been talking about. So to begin with, we're going to have a look at the infinite. And right here is a representation of the infinite. It is space. It goes on forever. There literally is nothing yet to experience because nothing has been created. There is just foreverness and nothing more. And as you can tell, this is a really boring place because there is absolutely nothing to do. So we have to start somewhere, so let's make our first point of reference. This point represents infinite consciousness expressed as one. However, we're still bored because there's nothing to do. We can't go for a walk, we can't eat our dinner, we can't do any of that stuff because none of that stuff exists yet. There's nothing to do. So we need something to bounce off, we need something to experience, we need something to communicate with, we need something to learn from or to learn with. Otherwise, what's the point? So, to have an experience, we need to create a second point of reference. Anywhere will do, as we have not yet created the concept of distance. So, here we go. So this dotted line here is showing that we've now created the idea of relation. We have something to experience. The dot is no longer bored because it now has a friend. And now these two friends can experience each other in their fullest way, as pure reflections of each other. And in this experience, we have created the idea of distance. And through this distance, we now have self-awareness. And because at this stage, awareness only goes as far as the reflection, we have now created ourselves a boundary. So if we were to trace a pathway around this boundary, as shown here, what you would get is a perfect circle.
Alright, this, on the outer rim of this, the vista interior thing, alright, it's telling you that if you visit the interior of the earth and by rectifying what you find there, you will discover the hidden stone, which is the Philosopher's Stone. Alright, so visit the interior of the earth. The Philosopher's Stone, it's an alchemic stone that's been lost, and it's said that it's able to turn mercury into silver or gold. So, this is the symbol for the Philosopher's Stone with alchemy. and they're showing you that the way out is, but it's upside down. Everything's flipped on you. Everything in your world is completely backwards. So if you want to exit the square that God puts you into, and we'll get to that in a minute, you gotta go down. You gotta visit the interior of the earth.
He's pointing to the exit hole. It's right over there. It's at the center of the dish. And we need to get there before we're dead and drink from that living waters.
Now, the story of Ethernet goes back some 32 years to May 22nd, 1973, when I wrote a memo at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center describing how Ethernet would work and naming it.
You see, when you view life in this way, what you're doing is you're seeing it through a different perceptual lens. And what I mean here is you're starting to see things at a very basic foundational level, which is essentially a level of truth. And through here, you're actually accessing the level of source. And what I mean by source is literally the infinite, what physicists would call the zero-point field. The zero-point field is basically a field of information. It is what you could call space that permeates everything. It's found in everything. It's found in your body, it's found in your cat, it's found in your breakfast. It's in between every particle. And in fact, the space between the particles is what allows that particle to communicate with another. They never really ever do touch, in contrast to probably what you were taught in school about this idea of particles bouncing against one another, like little balls, creating a chain reaction, and this whole cause and effect thing isn't really necessarily the case when you start looking at the Planck length. In fact, when you have a moment, check out the Planck length if you don't already know it. It's essentially the smallest space that you can get between one particle and another. There is an actual definitive space. So you could really see it as a form of truth that really nothing ever touches. It's the space in between which gives the effect or the illusion that things are touching. So therefore space isn't really what it appears to be.
We're in a puzzle game. We are on the sun projecting itself. And that's kind of hard for me to explain, and I think Satan's done it very well. We are on this, but we're on this being projected. And for something to need to be projected means there has to be a medium between them in order for that to need to be the case.
So we wanted all of our PCs to be able to access the internet at high speed. So we came up with the Ethernet, which ran on a big thick coax that wandered down the middle of every corridor, and then PCs in the individual rooms would then, through a cable, go up and tap into this big coax running down the middle of the corridor. I think we were either lucky or very shrewd that we never referred to the coax as coax. We referred to it as the ether. We talked about sending packets up into the ether and having them propagate everywhere. We call this the ether. We borrowed the word from physics. In the 19th century, physicists believed that there was some medium between the sun and the earth, which they called the luminiferous ether, an omnipresent, completely passive medium for the propagation of electromagnetic waves. Now that we felt that this coax through the ceiling in 1973 was going to go everywhere, and it was going to be completely passive, and it was going to be a medium for the propagation of electromagnetic waves, namely the data packets that we wanted our personal computers to exchange.
Everything returns back to the ether. We all become ethereal eventually as we ascend. And we must ascend from the solid molecular carbon 666, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electron bodies that we've been hexed with.
And we're in this crystal ball, and there's another side that we need to get to, and we're going to get there through the Holy of Holies. But right now, string theory, you're a vibration, you're a string on this gridiron bumping into other strings. You're a string on the gridiron bumping into other strings, okay, and you're leaving shit in your wake. And what I'm telling you is what I'm leaving in my wake is heaven on earth. Me and a bunch of people have literally spilled our blood over our tent and published it to the Ethernet. They say, so it is in your head, it's imaginary, so you write it down and you bring it into this real world. And you say it. It all started with the word. You brought it from your hand and you said the word. I'm going to bring forth heaven on earth. Then you wrote down a piece of paper, spilled your blood on it, and published video of it to the Ethernet. What the fuck? You know what? The Ethernet ain't going away for a long time. Trust me. That is the magical thing in all of this is you publish that to the Ethernet right beside the rest of ours, and we will have enough people eventually side by side that heaven will actually come to earth because we willed it and it was our intent. If you intend to bring forth heaven on earth, just like if you intend to make a sandwich, you will go get yourself some bread, you will go get some ham, you'll do whatever. If you intend to bring forth heaven on earth, spill your blood on it and publish it to the Ethernet, place it right beside the rest of ours under blood over intent. And you'll see, go over there and look for yourself. All of us stacked side by side, blood is thicker than water. That's what's going to bring heaven to this earth, people. That's what's going to bring heaven to the earth. It's just that simple.